Welcome to Stay Sparked. On this show, we explore how to stay inspired in the modern world through the most profound lessons from Burning Man, relationships, entrepreneurship, psychedelics, spirituality, travel, and more.
On this episode of Stay Sparked, we talked about creativity and art. What is art? Are you an artist? What is the difference between art that comes from inside and art that you buy at the store and put on your wall?
We talked about our own explorations of being an artist and how Burning Man has inspired our perceptions of art and how we interact with art.
What sort of art are we inspired to create? Are we indeed an artist? And if so, how do we tap into that authenticity to put our authentic selves out there in an artistic way?
Enjoy the episode. Welcome to Stay Sparked. We are three friends here to share conversations aimed to inspire and light you up. Thank you so much for listening. If you have been enjoying our conversations, we absolutely appreciate you leaving us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. And please share to help spread the sparks. I'm Betsy.
I'm Janus.
And I'm Halcyon.
I am the founder and creator of the Power Affirmation Project, helping to teach life skills for sustainable happiness.
I am the founder and CEO of NuWorld Nutritionals, a nutritional supplement company with mushroom-based products designed to help you with your state of mind.
I am a full-time love ambassador with a broadcast at 9 a.m. on Facebook, a noon and 6 p.m. Zoom gratitude circle, sharing positivity in all ways.
And all three of us are vibe bringers professionally. We always love starting these conversations with gratitude. So, Janus, what are you grateful for this morning?
I am grateful for, I have a couple of kitty cats that are always giving me something to do and always keeping me entertained. Waking up to cat litter kicked everywhere, or the food tipped over, or something like that, and just being like, ooh, but it's like having a beast that is a rascal that you just can't. They're so cute, you can't help but love them. So I'm grateful for them. It feels like I have a couple of rascally little babies, and they're fun.
So cute.
This week, I am so grateful for my father. He just turned 82 years old, and I've been thinking about him when I was a kid and what it was like for him to be this young man raising me, and just having so much gratitude for, what kind of fear and craziness and wackiness it must have been to be dealing with his responsibilities and dealing with a young child, especially as I am growing in my relationship with my bio son, Asher, who turns 4 next week. So I'm going to see him, and I'm just so in this beautiful reflection of awe and appreciation for my father, and learning to be, the best male role model I can be. So just feeling so grateful to be in this space right now.
Amazing.
Nice.
That's so beautiful. I am going to share my gratitude for a new baby I got to meet this weekend. One of our dear friends and Stay Sparked listeners, Tamra and Jillison. I got to meet their beautiful little baby who's 2 months old, and she fell asleep in my arms, and I just got to nestle her and got to just connect with mom and dad as they're in this very precious time of becoming new parents. And I'm just so grateful to get to have that little bit of quality time. It was just an hour, but it was just so wonderful. So I'm just really grateful for little baby Ruby.
Nice.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's dive in and start sparking it up. So we are inspired to talk about art, creativity. What has Burning Man inspired us in our lives around this topic of art? Are we artists? Let's see where we get to go. So why don't we start us off with just the perspective of our own artistry? Do you guys see yourselves as artists at this stage in your life? And if so, how do you express it? If not, love to hear more.
At this stage, absolutely. But I think it's it's important for me to think about that in terms of like where that came from, because you mentioned Burning Man, and before Burning Man, I had an idea of art as it was the kind of thing that you go to a museum to see. It's a thing that you go to this, buy in a poster and you put it on your wall. And so there's this very defined um, framework of which what an art is inside a frame. It is on a pedestal. It is defined as an object or a thing that is created by someone who is an artist. And Burning Man kind of helped me to see that creative expression happens in so many ways, and it's really about the creativity that you bring to your choices. And so once I shifted that thinking about what can art be, then I feel like, oh well, now I can choose to be an artist in the way I do almost everything, from dress to, well, okay, to answer your question, how do I feel like I'm an artist? For the longest time, my business card said lifestyle artist. After going to Burning Man, I'm like, well, I'm going to live in a way that my life is my art. This is my canvas. I'm going to present to the world as an expression of who I am. So yeah, I'll say that is how I'm an artist. I'm a lifestyle artist.
Amazing.
All right. Nice.
I love that so much.
Nice. A quote I saw during this, when the AI art thing really popped a couple months ago. One of the things I saw in a response to that, because there's been a lot of debate about that as to art, what is art? And one quote that really hit me, or really hit home for me, was art has no rules. So people, like, whatever you want to call art, I think you get to do that. I think whatever medium you want to choose, if like, making your life art, sure, why not? I think anybody gets to do that. I think we all are artists. How that gets expressed is really up to the individual, and whether or not that gets expressed is up to the individual. There's a lot of people, just because somebody might not see themselves as an artist and they have nothing they could point to be like, yeah, that's some art I created. Does it, if somebody doesn't necessarily want to own that title, that's fine. They don't have to do that. I think we all are artists. We all certainly have the capability and the capacity to do so, but whether or not we manage to fulfill that and how we choose to fulfill that is up to the individual.
So true. I know I've had so many different conversations with people over the years around like, oh, I'm not creative. I'm not an artist. And I could relate to that at a stage of my life, because I used to think, that, oh, to be an artist, you have to know how to paint. You have to know how to draw. You have to know how to like make art. And this idea of what art is, was kind of imprinted, that it was these physical things, similar to what you were talking about, Halcyon, around like, oh, it should be up on a wall, right? But yes, Burning Man definitely cracked me open to be able to find my own expression of my artistry, because I tried painting, but it's not really a thing. This was many years before I went to Burning Man. But when I started going to Burning Man, I actually discovered my artistry through textiles and through clothing and through sewing, because the costumes, are really encouraged. And so I just all of a sudden got this fire lit under me, thanks to Kiwi out there, who many of you might know, Kiwi Craig. He sparked me for my first burn and got me my first sewing machine. And all of a sudden I became this textile artist, and it really changed everything for me. I'm not sewing anymore, but I completely resonate with what you said too around being a lifestyle artist and finding different ways to create art every day, even if it's a simple flower arrangement, or maybe sometimes I put body paint on even on a Tuesday. Right, I feel like allowing myself to be creative, it helps to also instigate that inner child, right? The play. How do I keep things light every day and not get so serious?
I love that idea of that it's you if you decide it's art, or if you are in an artistic headspace. Like, one of the things that I think the old school traditional art world mentality that makes us think that it needs to be in a frame on a wall is that there is like curation. There's an idea of that this is good art or this is bad art. And the Burning Man mentality is that if you made it, it's art. And especially the only thing that is judged on is degree of authenticity. You know, if
Mm,
you are authentically expressing yourself, it is celebrated. Doesn't mean I like it, but it means I respect it and I will encourage you to do so.
Mm.
And from that place of like, oh wait, if I can authentically express in any way, then that is a genuine artistic expression. I think that's a liberating idea. And so when you said about can some people, you know, have trouble with the idea of being an artist, I think that's a really powerful like spiritual pursuit. Like if you can actually let go of what the reasons are that you don't think you're an artist, it's probably the same reasons that you're struggling to be authentic.
Mm.
mm.
So
That's a
powerful.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, and also that questioning, like, am I an artist? I think a lot of people, if someone out there is listening and has been like, I don't know that I'm an artist. I don't think I'm an artist, or I don't know that I can be an artist. I would just say stop and look around your space, at the room you're in, or at your house. Nobody's living in like this stark, four walls in a box kind of thing. It's like, look at you likely have stuff on your walls. Who chose that rug that you've got? To like, look at your kitchen, look how things are set up. Like there's an element of artistic expression that permeates our lives, and it speaks like some halcyon, like just like you own it, like the lifestyle artist. Like there's just, I'm surrounded by art, I'm creating in every aspect of my life. We're doing that whether we are acknowledging that or not. And I think it's, if somebody's questioning their capabilities, it's like, no, it's like we're surrounded by evidence for that. So in my own life, I found, going back to Burning Man, I've like co-created camps for a number of years with people, and there's always been this artistic element to it. It kind of, Burning Man kind of demands that. You can do it like it's like, and also applying like function, to form. Like, yeah, it's got to be artistic, but it also has to withstand the elements. So that's where it's like, I'm not an artist, I'm a builder. It's like, well, yeah, but there's some artistic, what's the word I'm looking for? Artistic inspiration that has to come along with that as well. So yeah,
Mhm.
so there's so like Betsy, like I may not paint, but I do write, and there's also, I definitely have some, it took a while before I saw myself as an artist, but looking back on it, especially now that we're talking about it, yeah, I've got art. Just I've expressed myself artistically throughout throughout much of my life.
Mm-hmm. It's such a vital part of staying inspired for me. So I had a cool thing happen last week that I'd love to share, and it has to do with allowing art to come through in many forms and letting it fuel other aspects of life. And so I have this project that I'm working on, and I have some to-do lists to go along with it, and I was feeling blocked. It was like something that I know I needed to do, and I was like, okay, I just can't access the inspiration for these things to come through in this project I'm working on. And so I actually started working on some other art that was not related. That was actually not even really going to contribute to anything except for my own expression of art. And so I went ahead and followed that inspiration to create. It was a earth mandala. I love making mandalas. Many of you may have seen some of my pictures. I think some of you probably make mandalas, but it felt really good to just get out in nature, collect some flowers and some sticks and some crystals and things, and I made this mandala. And it's a very impermanent, it's an earth mandala, so it's going to get cleared. And then what ended up happening, then I came to this other project I was working on, and all of a sudden things started to open up and the creative flow started to rush in. And I was like, oh, yes, there it is. And so one of the things I've learned in my journey of being creative is that to allow different mediums to fuel. That used to happen as well with when I was a clothing designer. If I had a custom piece I had to work on and the inspiration wasn't coming through, then to pause, go make some other art that had nothing to do with that, and like let the channel start to open, right? Let those like just sparks start to come through in a different medium, and then see how it inspires the other things we're working on.
The idea of opening the channel, I love that. It's reminds me of The Artist's Way and morning pages of just like getting stuff out, and part of, or even writing, the idea of like, don't be afraid to write crap. Like you just got to like get it out, let it out, let it out. I wanted to say that there's, if you are someone that feels like, oh, I'm not an artist, or I'm not creative, that it's not your fault that you feel that way, because we have a culture that trains us to be consumers, that trains us to be the receivers of our entertainment, and really kind of discourages us to be creative, artistic people. And so it takes a lot of courage, and it takes a community of support, and it takes a lot to allow yourself to be a non-professional artist, to be someone who just creates because humans create. And I think that there's a real like powerful acknowledgement of that humans are creative. It's one of the things that separates us from everything else, and so to acknowledge it, it's okay, not just okay, making creative expressions, no matter how crappy that you might judge them, or you might think someone's judging, is a part of your expression. It's part of being a human being. There's a game that I like to play called the squiggle game, and where everyone gets the same squiggle, and then you turn it into something. Everyone, and people always say, "Oh, I can't draw. I can't draw." I'm like, that's not how the game is played. The game is not about drawing the coolest picture. In fact, if you want to just just point to, I was gonna draw this, and I thought it looked like this. That's okay. It's about just like letting yourself think creatively, and opening up that channel, because I think, as you said, Betsy, when the channel starts opening, things come out that are way more than you have really control over.
Yep, we got to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and kids are good at that. I don't think anybody has to tell a kid to like be artistic. Or a child is always drawing. They're always like painting, finger painting, whatever. Like you don't have to give a kid anything. They'll make something crazy out of like whatever they get their hands on.
It's the imagination. Yes, I love that. It's so true. And that's why I was saying earlier, it's like we got to let ourselves play as adults, right? Children just naturally play, and they use their imagination to make art. And there's like this joy that comes from it. And so where does that stop? It's oftentimes it feels like as adults, we kind of like pull us away from being imaginative, and so art can again open the channel for play and for creativity and for imagination.
I had a really cool experience. I was via webcam drawing with Asher, who's almost 4, and we were both drawing monsters, and I was kind of, I wanted to impress him. I wanted to draw a really cool looking monster, and then I look at his drawing, and it's awesome, but totally crazy, chaotic, and he's very clear about what it is, even though I can't really tell, and but there's nothing in his mind. He's not going, man, darn it, it doesn't look like, a real monster. He's not attached to what it's supposed to be or what it should be. It's just this is his expression, and it's perfect as it's coming out. And I was like, this is so cool. Like he's not looking at my drawing being like, wow, Bada's really good artist.
Yeah. That's something that we lose, like, as we get older, in something, when Asher, any child does something, I've never heard a child say, oh, that, and I don't remember ever saying it when I was that age, oh, that's not what it was supposed to look like. That's not what it was supposed to be. It's not supposed to be anything. It is what it is. And they're just like, yeah, I just did this thing, and it's like, great, now I'm going to do this other thing. And if we can hold on to that, the idea that it's supposed to be something, or it's supposed to look a certain way, or evoke a certain feeling, and just like, no, I'm expressing myself because that's just what I want to do. It's like it's again, comes back to the spiritual lesson of undergoing action without attachment to outcome. The action itself is that the service is the joy. We don't do the thing to in order to have an outcome of joy. We do it because it's joyful to do.
Dude, I just got a huge spark hit because one of the things I have written on my wall right now is you can't do it wrong. And it's been going back to this kind of like childhood stuff of like fearing that, is there a right and a wrong way? And so I've really been sinking into that idea. And I think that's one of the traps of keeping us from our creativity and our art is is this good enough? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? And if you can really sink into that, you can't do it wrong. You can't do it wrong. That's the child attitude. You can't do it wrong. There's so much creative power can come from that pipeline if you just let it out, knowing that you can't do it wrong if it is authentic.
So true. And when we provide ourselves a space to express in that way, it's so powerful. Yeah, and not attached, right? That's why I really loved the mandala practice, right? Making art to make art. I also recently have been coming to that place too around like, okay, if I make something, what the heck's it for? What am I going to do with it? I've actually struggled with that in a way where I'm like, I just want to make art, but then I have this art and I don't have anywhere to put it. And what am I going to do? Like, just give it to somebody just because I don't have anywhere to put it. It's like, oh, actually, maybe I can make art just to make art and not have the attachment to it actually, sticking around, to just create the time to. Yeah, like I was out in nature recently and I love sticks. And I collected some sticks and I ended up making some really cool mobiles with them with like some silk ribbons and some really like beautiful kind of like dream catcher type of things. And it just, when I was making them, I was like having this overwhelming feeling of just joy and beauty and like, oh wow, feels so good. And then I was like, okay, well, I have nowhere to put these. I guess I'm just gonna take them apart now. And it was like, even that was really powerful for me to just like get into that place too, like not attached to it.
So Betsy is the Blair Witch. It's like I could have, I could have guessed
Oh, what?
the stick figures in the woods that are staring at
Oh gosh, no. I might leave
me.
little like, yeah, maybe some little trails of beauty.
Yes, not at all. I
Not
use witch in the most positive sense of the term.
good.
Yeah, but yeah, the idea, and this comes for me, from all of us. I think it comes from Burning Man. The idea of impermanence. There's a lot to be said in that. I spoke to somebody who helped build a temple. And this is like early on when when I first started going, before the lessons really started to like kind of kick in for me and become a way of life. Speaking to somebody who was working on the temple, and she was saying that the the building and the thing about the temple was almost like secondary to her. She's like getting together with a group of people and creating this thing. She's like, that's what the juice was for me. She's like, I love what we did. She's like, but the connections I made with the people I was working alongside, that's why I did it. To meet these people, and these people have become lifelong friends, like sharing this endeavor with a group of people, and something that was super impermanent. She's like, but those connections are permanent, and they feel like that's the reason that she feels like she keeps going back to create this art with a bunch of other artists. And the project itself is almost secondary to that connection that they were feeling. And that was a pretty important download for me.
That impermanence aspect is I think huge, because to embrace impermanence, we have to fight against, again, these cultural kind of pressures to acquire and build and value, and that art is, gets trapped in these traditional things of value and commerce and transactional things. And so we think it has to, like, how could you destroy something so beautiful? Well, it's not intended to be forever. It's intended to be an experience. And that is so contrary to so much of our bigger, better, more, grow mindsets. And so to that struggle that we have with impermanence, I think is it's almost like the struggle when you like learning to meditate. Like, how can I let go of all the stuff that is in my head and embrace this moment? Can I embrace this creation? How can I do that? And if you can, then the depth of that experience and that the way it can hit you can be so much deeper.
Expansive. Yeah, the
Yeah.
possibilities grow. One of the things I feel really sparked about in this conversation of art is how keeping specific types of art around us has an influence on us, right? So I love visionary art. Burning Man absolutely has inspired my deep love of visionary art, and we're so blessed to have these people in our community, and at this time in history where there is this incredible evolutionary art. Autumn Sky, Android Jones, Jessica Pearlstein, there's, Carrie Thompson, to name a few, that have really put out art that is encoded, from what I see, encoded with certain types of frequencies, right? It evokes emotion. Art always evokes emotion. But what I notice is some of these incredibly talented artists are creating these ceremonial pieces that can really transform a person from witnessing them. Another one of my favorite visionary artists is Michael Devine. He had a gallery some years ago, just a real small pop-up before he got so popular. It was the first time I had ever stood in front of an art piece and was brought to tears. I just couldn't, something overcame me, and it was the first time I ever invested a good amount of money in an art piece because it evoked a deep sense of emotion. And then I had that art piece on my wall for many years, and it just continued to inspire my life. It continued to help me to anchor into that deep feeling of just connection to my own soul. And art has that ability to do that, right? And so when we look around our house, like you were saying, Janus, what is on our walls? Is the art around us inspiring us? I had a client last week who I've been helping him to transform his bedroom into a sanctuary. And one of the things that was first to change was the art, because he had art on the wall that just really meant nothing to him. I
Mm.
asked him about it. He's like, I don't know, some interior designer got it for me at Ross. Like, I don't really, it's just random. And I was like, okay, well, then why don't we find some art that makes you feel really inspired and good? And so we found this art piece. He connects to the trumpet and like jazz. And so we got some jazz pieces that just, when he looks at them, he's, oh, yes, like that evokes a fire in my soul for the passionate musician that I am. And it's a completely different feeling in the room now. And it's amazing how just slight shifts can really change our lives.
That's a good example of how little choices of making a conscious choice, actively making a choice, as opposed to passively receiving. I would consider getting art from Ross as being a passively accepting what is considered art. It's not really an active choice of yours. And that happens all the time. And often we do it because we're not totally sure what we like and don't like. And it's safer to just select, what's pre-selected as good. The same as happens when we go to Nordstrom's and we buy clothes off the rack. We say, "Hey, professional, I trust you that if I wear this, I won't be teased." Okay, cool. Now this is what I look like now in the world, but it's not an active choice. Whereas you can make a creative, artistic choice in the way you walk through the world with your clothes. And it takes courage, but there's these. That's why I like to think of a lifestyle artist, because there's little choices like that all the time in the way that you put things on your wall, the way that you dress yourself, and in the way that you give a massage. I mean, there's so many choices that we can make when we allow ourselves to make the choice ourselves, as opposed to accept the choices that have been given to us or told to us.
Yeah, and what you're speaking to comes back to the idea of authenticity. Who like the art that is on our walls isn't like what's in your home is an expression of who you are, on the inside, even if nobody sees that. And that your home should be your sanctuary, and your home deserves to have this authentic expression of yours, where no matter how you decide to decorate, no matter what you put on the walls, it's important to tap into that level of authenticity and have your expression mean something. It doesn't have to mean anything to anybody else. It just has to, it feels good to put yourself out there, and even to see, like, we have at our home, my partner is a pretty fantastic artist, pretty fantastic painter, and there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paintings of hers like on the walls, and it's nice to have, her stuff on the walls. Like when she's not here, she's still here,
Mm.
and yeah, and I like that, and it's good to just there's something rewarding about putting yourself out there, even if it's only for yourself.
Absolutely. And I feel like we'll just kind of circle right back around to Burning Man like we always do. It really has provided a powerful place for so many people to share their art, right? It's like there are thousands and thousands of people over the many years that Burning Man has been in existence, that there is a place for people to get to see it, right? There's people that spend the entire year building art pieces to put out there. And it's like, oh, wow, it's a very different feeling to make an amazing art piece or structure, sculpture, whatever it might be, and keep it in your garage versus putting it somewhere out in the world for people to get to enjoy. And then watching over the years how now a lot of those beautiful sculptures and art pieces that these artists from Burning Man have made are going out into cities and are in parks and getting to be shared in this beautiful way. Like, I know personally, there's been times where I'm like out in the world and I'm like, hey, I think I saw that art piece at Burning Man. It's so amazing to get to see how the art of Burning Man has started to influence the just art in the world.
I was just noticing that I have 7 photographs of myself at Burning Man on my walls and 4 paintings of myself at Burning Man on my walls. But that's what inspires me. It brings me into that place of my art, my life, and this place where I get to feel the most creative and artistic. I reflect that in my walls. And I want to say also that I, not to knock Ross art. If you see something at Ross that inspires you, that's part of being authentic, is not going, oh, this is tacky because it's from Ross. No. Or if you see something at some seascape that you get at a thrift store and you're like, whoa, this reminds me of my childhood. I just got a hit. Oh, I'm going to put this on my wall. Like, that's part of the courage of being an artist, is to say, no, I get to decide. I get to decide what lights me up.
Absolutely. Yes. Does it evoke emotion? Does it evoke sensation? Does it spark you? Right? I know for me, one of the ways I stay sparked with art is by moving art around and changing art around my house. I don't know why. It's just something that I do every season or so. Like if I have, something on my wall for a number of months, then I change it. And then when I walk into the room again, something in my brain chemistry starts to go like look at things differently. New neural pathways start firing, new perspectives start getting shifted, and that's such a beautiful thing to just keep the inspiration flowing.
Mm-hmm.
There, there was a passage in the book Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance where he talks about the difference between a painting and a print. That a painting has the energy of an artist in it. This is like a vibration of the, you can see the strokes, you can feel their energy, whereas a print is a picture of art. And for a long time, I really struggled to enjoy prints, because of that distinction. But I think that as you were mentioning, Betsy, that like if an image has a code in it or has a reaction to you, a picture of a piece of art that hits you is still, absolutely a valid way to decorate your walls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's yeah, the image itself. Yes, I understand. I get and I appreciate the distinction, certainly. But certainly the image and the impact of an image should not be discounted. I mean, just the fact that there's the whole realm of photography, that's an image, and some pretty powerful images have resulted from that. And I'm recalling 2006. I remember this. I was helping set up for a function, and speaking of Kerry Thompson, he had donated a bunch of large murals that we were going to hang from the rafters, and I'm maybe 2 weeks off of my very first DMT experience, and the imagery was still very profound in my head, and so I'm up in the rafters unfurling um, this large piece from Kerry Thompson, and I'm like 10 feet up on a ladder, attaching it, and then I have to unroll. I had no idea what's on the mural. I unroll this thing right in front of me, and it is exactly what I saw in that trip, like and painted on a mural in front of me. And I was like, immediately went back to that space, and I'm 10 feet up on the ladder, like go, like wobbling, trying to catch myself and diving headfirst into this mural. And I had to find him, and I was like, dude, you captured exactly my experience. He's like, yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. It's like this, and I did it over. And this painting is another experience I had. It just, and yeah, those, and this just speaks to, like, again, the images, whatever evokes that feeling and that experience from you, the medium is almost secondary, whether it's, because music has the same thing. And like, you might hear a piece, like we all have some fantastic musician friends, and one of them is David Bergeau. And a lot of times when I'm listening to him play, it's a piece that is improv that will not be created again. But he's somebody who definitely drops, is very comfortable with the idea of impermanence, so he's happy to just play. And some of those feelings that his pieces evoke while you're in the presence of it are just profound, and like taking those feelings away from that singular performance that will never be recreated again exactly the same, is pretty good. It's pretty good. So
I was so scared that you were going to fall off that ladder during that story.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Would not be the first time I've done a header into something, for sure.
I love what you're speaking to also around how music is art, so is movement. I find
Yes, absolutely.
dance and expressing the body as art is so powerful. Like witnessing a performer, a ballerina, a dancer, a contortionist, my own self-expression of movement and dance, it's totally an access point to art. And I feel like that is one of the greatest gifts, I know, for me to be able to tap into that, right? So if I'm getting really serious or logistical, or like I need to move my body in a way that feels like it activates the right brain, the creativity. And so I feel like dance is definitely a wonderful expression of art too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think I know the answer for Halcyon. Are you guys into contact dancing? Those contact jams? Is that your jam? It's not my jam.
Yes,
I
I love
appreciate
it.
it, but
I
it's not
love
really, it's
contact
not,
dance.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and for those of you out there, what contact dance is, it's like partner dance or multiple people in a dance expression where there is always one point of contact, and it's very intuitive. There's this non-structured expression versus like tango or more traditional partner dancing. This is very abstract. Mhm. It's
Mhm.
kind of like the Van Gogh of partner dancing.
Huh.
Or the Jackson Pollock,
Hmm.
Nice. I have never done it. I quite honestly, that would be an edge for me. I think I've seen people do it, and it's one of the things that kept me away from ecstatic dance for a long time, because I'm like, I don't know what this is all about.
It's kind of weird at first. It's like one of the things that actually has come out of my exploration of contact dance, because I had that same thing where it's like, oh, this is awkward. How do I might stumble, or I might put an elbow in somebody's face on accident. And one of the phrases that I love, it's called the integration of the awkward. And that term actually came from a album title from Muse. But I feel like contact dance really teaches that. And so does many different expressions of art, right? Integration of the awkward. Like awkward is going to happen. we're gonna move our bodies awkwardly, we're gonna say something awkward, we're gonna like do something awkward, but how do we move through it? Integrate it into the flow and just come right back. And that's why also like just on this topic of art and my journey of learning around how to just keep listening to the evolution of art, to know when to stop. Like, where's that stopping point if you're working on an art piece? How do you know when you're finished? Right? How do you know when to keep going? So I had this really cool insight from working on a hat that I was making many years ago. Our friend Dax had commissioned me to make a hat for him. And I really wanted to make it good. And I was like, oh my gosh, like he's going to be wearing this out in the world. And I want him to feel really good about it. And I started making it. And then it started turning really weird. And I was like, oh God, like this is not cool. It looks like a freaking scarecrow hat. I can't give this to him. And he had given me the base hat. And I was so scared that I like ruined it. And I was like, oh God. And so I stopped working on it and I felt horrible about it. And it was totally awkward. And so I set it on the shelf, and then I came to a point of realizing, just keep going. Just keep going. Just keep adding some layers, right? Just see what comes through. And so then when I did that, then all of a sudden something new started to emerge. And it was like, oh my gosh, okay, the awkward started to turn into grace and beauty, and this new form started to reveal itself. And the more that I continued to tend to it, right? It's kind of like painting, right? There can be layers and layers and layers and layers, and you might not know what's to come until you keep going. And so just to keep going and know when to stop has been one of the greatest teachings of my artist expression.
It's the difference between, I think, it's like the difference between the mind and the heart. The mind is where we get the skill from. And the heart is how we apply that skill. And I think that the going back to the idea of contact dancing, contact jam, the only instruction I remember, the one time I went, so I went twice, but the first time I went, the instructor, the main lady who was kind of overseeing kind of the flow of it, was like, your mind needs to get out of the way of the expression. And that I found kind of applies across the board to art. So when you're creating a hat, for example, Betsy, it's like the mind starts to be looking, oh, this is awkward or whatever, what have you. And I think, well, we all have our own process. So, and I think it's wise, and there's a lot of wisdom in that idea. Okay, I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to come back to it later, and then coming back to it with your heart, be like, nah, get weirder, get more awkward with it. And I'm sure that hat was received by Dax. Like, I'm sure he was pretty giddy to get it. When he finally received that.
He was, and he looked awesome. And the cool thing is, he's one of the most supportive friends of my art. He really taught me so much around how we can support each other as artists, because he would just give me his complete trust. And I think Halcyon, you probably can relate to this, considering you've commissioned so many of your friends to make these art pieces for you. It's such a gift to be able to encourage each other as the artists that we are, and to just say, hey, like, I want to pay you for your magical expression. And I feel like that has been one of the greatest gifts of this Burning Man community, is that we fan each other's flames, we support each other. And I feel like, the more that we can do that, the more then that authenticity starts to come through, right? I know the people in my life that have been there for me in that way have just helped me to become even more creative. And so then I get to keep doing that to my friends and fan their flames and remind each other, like, wow, your art is so needed and it's so valuable and I appreciate it and I want to buy it and I want to share it. And it's such a gift of this community.
Yeah, that's such a wonderful gesture. I mean, it's not really about. I mean, there's a thing about you using your art as a way to make a living, which is a whole different, I think, topic. But the idea of just valuing someone's art and trying to kind of vote with your dollar and say, look, this is worth something in the world, more of this in the world. And to be able to tell someone who is struggling with that kind of cultural story of like, we do not value our artists, we do not value our art. So if you can have the means to give someone the very clear message, no, this is important. I think, a purchasing of someone's art it means so much. Even if you just bought like a postcard of an artist, or buy their sticker or something like that. If you see someone at an art show, it's such a big difference. It's saying, I love your art is great, but saying, I'm going to use what our culture uses to decide importance, and I'm going to tell you this is important and this is good. It makes a big difference to an artist, I think.
It does. It's such a vulnerable thing as artists to put
Yes.
themselves out there and invest their time, energy, money, resources to say, hey, here's my authentic expression. And I feel like we are at a time where there is this whole new way of getting to be an artist in the world, with social media platforms providing a space for artists to get to be seen in these whole new ways. Like on my Instagram, I follow a lot of amazing artists, and it's so cool to see some of these artists, the way that they're sharing their paintings and sharing their art, and then like thousands and thousands and thousands of people are getting to see it out in the world. I just absolutely love getting to see also how artists are able to take their paintings, for example, and turn it into clothing, turning it into, like you said, stickers, uh, all these different ways of being able to fuse mediums for different ways of getting to share art in the world and actually create sustainable business models for artists. I love seeing how so many people that I know are doing well as artists. Whereas not so long ago, a couple generations or less, whereas like, oh, you want to be an artist? Yeah, no, 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 you're not going to make it. You better go back to school
Yeah.
and become a doctor.
Yeah,
So funny how
it's
things
definitely
change.
easier than ever. Yeah, definitely easier than ever, I think, for artists to do well and to thrive. It's simply because it's easier to get your stuff out there. And so yeah, we live in an artistic age.
But there is that means that your job is professional artist, and that there is a lot that going into being a professional artist that is beyond just creating art, in terms of
Mhm.
playing social media games and promoting and all those things. And I definitely know some artists who really struggle with that aspect. They just want to paint,
Totally.
and that's a big challenge. And so to kind of come full circle with some of the things we've talked about, I think that it's amazing that there are people who are able to uh, listen to their muse and still make a living, and at the same time, each of us needs to spend some time listening to our muse, just because it's an incredible part of being a human being is to be expressing yourself. So making your crappy art with no intention of ever making money off it, no intention. I mean, I think that's a really dangerous motivation. If you're creating anything with the idea of like, can I make value out of this and sell it, you have instantly lost the connection to the muse. So being an artist, as a professional thing, is a yay bonus. Love it. I'm glad people are doing it. But we can all be artists no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, that feels like a good exclamation point.
Boom.
Yeah.
But we're
Right.
doing
Well, I
it.
love that because we always close it up with sparks. Was that your
Mm.
closing spark, Halcyon?
He's got more. He's got more
sparks in
sparks. He's
there.
got more
Squeeze them
sparks.
out.
Yeah, I guess just the one other spark is just that to be aware of the cultural binds that have kept many of us away from considering ourselves artists and being an artist, and to forgive yourself and to notice when your voice says I'm not creative or I'm not artistic. And as you start to challenge that voice and look around your house and your wardrobe and your decisions and your choices, is there little places where you can start to make choices based on some inner inspiration, as opposed to the things that you have been served from externally your whole life? And following those little choices here and there, that's the artist's path.
Yeah. I think that what that sparks in me is the idea of allowing ourselves to be surprised, or allowing ourselves to be positively surprised by what our who might be inspired by our art, or what our art might inspire out in the world. I was a little while ago, I was speaking to a friend of mine. She's very attractive, and she likes to post like boudoir photos of herself online. Just not a lot, but you know, somewhat regularly, and they all look fantastic. She's just one of those really photogenic people. And I commented on one of them. I'm like, I hope you're saving these for like a coffee table book or something. And she was like, no, is that something that you'd be interested? I'm like, oh my gosh, like I think anybody would. And so I mean, they're gorgeous, they're artistic, yeah, I would love to have a book of those sitting on my table at home. And it struck me as something that she had never even considered. And it's just like, no, it's like, don't this don't we shouldn't sell ourselves short. Like, we don't like this. If we have it on our, like, we're putting it out there, it will likely be received. It might not in the way you might not be expecting, but the world, I think, wants what we have to offer, and appreciates what we have to offer. And so allow ourselves to be inspired by the world, be surprised by, you never put yourself out there, you never know what might come of it.
Nice.
Mm, I am feeling sparked. I'm like, okay, I want to end this conversation so I can go make some art.
Woo.
And go collect all of the images and the photos that I've done. I've done some modeling too. It's a really great idea. I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like my closing spark is to make art. Right, just to let it spark some inspiration, let it evoke that sense of imagination and play, and really that being the intention. Maybe it is also an intention to share that art with someone, like painting rocks, for example. Painting a rock is just like, it's a fun thing, and then you can go give it to someone to put in their garden, for example. It's just something so simple can actually just create so many lasting smiles. I found a painted rock actually not too long ago, and I picked it up and I put it right by my front door. And every time I see it, I just, ah, so beautiful. Somebody painted that. I have no idea who, and it's really good. So to keep those sparks spreading with our imagination, our joy, our play, our creativity. Love this conversation with you guys. Thank you guys so much. And so as we close it up, we love to always share a little more about who we are and how you can find us in the world. So how about you want to start us off, Halcyon? Where can people find you in the world?
You can find all of the wacky, wild, and diverse expressions of my lifestyle artistry at johnstin.com, JOHNSTYN.com. That's got my gratitude circles, as well as, like, I like to express myself artistically. I make t-shirts as a way of expressing my art. And I've got a book, several books. And so there's, if you would like to traipse along my artistic path, johnstin.com.
Amazing.
Oh, fantastic. I've got as mentioned before, I've got a nutritional supplement company out there called NuWorld Nutritionals, spelled NuWorld Nutritionals.com. And we make mushroom-based products designed to improve one's state of mind, helps to alleviate symptoms of anxiety, depression, all forms of dementia, ADHD, things like that. Helps you focus, helps your memory, all things for the brain. It's good brain food. So you can find us again at newworldnutritionals.com. Use the code SPARK for 10% off of any product.
I would imagine that it might help with your creativity also.
Absolutely. There are definitely some artists that use it exactly for that, and
Amazing.
to great results. Yeah.
I love that. And I have many forms of my creative expression out in the world. In the last few years, I have been turning my art into affirmations. And so I created a journal that is called the Power Affirmation Journal that really is an expression of my heart and my passion for personal growth and development and really cultivating practices that can help with sustainable happiness. And so you can find that on poweraffirmation.com, where I have shared many of my most favorite affirmations that I've written and also that I've collected. And I've also put out into the world some audio affirmations that really inspire all kinds of different mindset hacks, whether that is using affirmations for traveling or for mindful eating or for cultivating deeper gratitude. So affirmations is my current creative expression. And there's that. And then also for those of you that are in Southern California, I love getting to support people one-on-one in person with body work, energy work, healing work. I'm a holistic healing practitioner. And so I love getting to just put my hands on people and love them up. So I'm grateful to get to be here with you guys in this form of our expression on Staying Sparked. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you for leaving us reviews. Thank you for sharing the sparks. And we look forward to getting to continue these inspiring conversations with you.
Fantastic. You want to close this out with a affirmation?
Yes. All right. I love it. You know, I love my affirmations. So,
We know.
all right.
We know this.
I know. I can't get enough. Affirmation enthusiast over here. All right. So, infusing our consciousness today with sparks of inspiration. Simple affirmation. I stay inspired every day. I find ways to stay inspired every day. I find ways to stay inspired every day. Every day in every way, I am finding ways to stay inspired. I find ways to express my art in new ways every day. I am inspired. I am inspired. I am inspired. Letting yourself repeat that in your mind again and again and again. I stay inspired. I am inspired. I am inspired. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Betsy.
Thank you.
Stay spark, people.